We are back. Grease and Glamour 2.0. What'd you say, Hunter?
I said more grease, more glamour.
Tastes great, less price.
That's right.
I'm here with my son, Hunter, and this is going to throw people off because Hunter and I have almost the identical voice. So
Yeah, we're testing it out. So if I need to make my voice a little deeper,
no, I've already told our producer that he's putting the deep voice on me.
just let us know in the comments if it's a problem.
Yeah.
But we will change if it is.
The next episode, I'm going to sound like James Earl Jones.
There you go.
With the mask? With the Vader mask?
I might have to wear the Vader mask.
Oh, yeah.
So, Anyway, Grease and Glamour is a podcast that we created back in 2018 or 19. And it ran through the pandemic, but in mid-2021, we had to kind of give something up to focus on our car dealership, Universal Imports of Rochester, as we were coming out of the pandemic. And I'm happy to say that we, even though the pandemic was hard on everybody, we came out stronger than ever. And now we are in a position where we can come back and do this podcast. And I'm happy to say we are at the new to us Roxvox Studios. And we have a tremendous producer, Scott.
What up?
Really happy to be here.
It's good to have you guys here.
And what's really great about this podcast is it's also going to be on YouTube. So we've got a video element now, too.
You get to see our face.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy.
Face reveal.
That may be the key to you and I being able to do a podcast together is they can see our faces.
See our face, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was considering doing a masked presence and do like a face reveal on episode 30 or something, but that fell out the window.
We should have thought about that a little harder.
Yeah.
That could have been funny.
Done something. I don't know.
Put a Scream mask on you or something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Kevin, I think Hunter might know, but do you guys know where the name Grease and Glamour came from? Because I want to tell people a little bit about our dealership and a little bit about the origin of this podcast.
I know it, but for the sake of the listeners and the podcast, we should hear it.
For a new employee, you should.
All right, so I'll rattle through this, and then we'll get on with the podcast. We're going to be talking about I sort of picked 5 things that have changed in the auto industry since we were on the air last. So from season 1, which ended in March of 21, to now season 2, which is now the end of November 2024, what has changed in the auto industry? Where's the future going? There's so much to talk about. Probably can't do it all on one podcast, but we'll try. But the Grease and Glamour podcast started because we have a car dealership, Universal Imports of Rochester. We are in Rochester, New York. We are sales and service of European and import automobiles. We have a body shop. We've been in business. We are celebrating 40 years in business in 2025. So that's really a special landmark mark for us. But back about 20 years ago, my mother and father, who founded the company in the mid 80s, he had the idea of doing a Saturday clinic. And at that time, he was thinking it would be more based for females to come to learn more about their car and maintenance on their car and all of that. And back in those times, that was something that actually a lot of businesses were doing, whether it's male or female, but different things for different things. So he had come up with the idea of the name Grease and Glamour. Well, now 2000, when we started this podcast, I didn't feel like there was anything to differentiate male or female when it comes to learning about your cars, because we all know that both males and females either know a lot about it or know nothing about it. So, but I loved the name Grease and Glamour. I thought it was cool. So how could we repurpose that? So we repurposed the name by talking about the grease of a car, the glamour of a car, and try to create a podcast that talked about both. So we talked about the gears and brakes and all the dirty stuff about a car, but we also interviewed people like Mario Andretti and Lou Gramm, who is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we focused on the grease and the glamour side of the automotive industry. So we really, our podcast was very successful in terms of getting some great guests on. Like I said, Mario Andretti, go back and listen to that one. It was a really fun podcast to do. Lou Gramm, we did in our dealership, and we did it as a video podcast, and that was like right in the height of COVID. So we had like these plexiglass screens.
I gotta stop you there because in my lifetime, and it's not, I'm 24, so there's still a lot of time left, hopefully. But Lou Gramm, when we had him in our office, it was just the start of COVID and, checking your temperature and everything. So I think I made the best joke of my life, and I'm gonna tell you guys. So we had Lou Gramm in. He was in our office. It was really cool. I went up to him. I said, "Hey, Mr. Gramm, I had one of the laser pointer thermostats."
Yeah.
I pointed it at him and got him with the laser. I said, "You have a fever of 103."
He's hot-blooded.
And,
Yeah, he liked it.
He laughed. He thought it was funny. It was, I think, the best joke I've ever made and probably will ever make. But
Well, I'll tell you, when Lou Gramm was in studio, his manager told me very clearly, he's like, "You've got 50 minutes. Like 50 minutes we're in and out." And I'm like, "Absolutely, we can respect that." We were at like 48 minutes in the podcast, and his manager's sort of looking over at me, like pointing to his watch, like, "Okay, wrap this up." And Lou looks over to him and sort of like, "Don't worry about it. We'll keep going." And we wound up talking for another 10 or 15 minutes, and then he stayed for another hour after that, just talking
hung
about
out.
cars.
That's awesome.
And super cool guy.
signed books, yeah.
It was great.
Cool.
It was awesome. So anyway, we are now back, and just to piggyback on talking about some of the guests we've had, I'm going to already start teasing our next episode that is going to have Rick Avery, who you may not have heard that name, but you've more than likely seen his work. He is a stuntman out in California, and he has credits that are just a mile long. He's been in all the Batman movies. He's been in Ant-Man, so some of the Marvel movies. He's been in a ton of action movies. He's a helicopter pilot, stunt driver, actor, director. So he's going to have a ton of things to talk about, and we're really excited about that episode. But today we are talking about the 5 ways the auto industry has changed in the last 3.5 years. And there's just so much. I mean, as I was doing research for this, I was like, wow, there are a lot of things to talk about. But one of the things I want to talk about is Hunter and I were just out in Vegas. And we experienced the Tesla Loop.
What's that?
That is like the future of city transportation.
So cool.
So we were in Las Vegas at the conference center. And to walk from either side of that building is like a 2-mile walk. I mean,
Wow.
It's like, yeah, you gotta put on sneakers and be ready to break a sweat because it's not an easy task to get from point A to point B. But the Tesla Loop, which I don't know if there's other loops yet. I think this is like the first.
They've just announced that they're going to expand that loop from the airport to various spots on the Strip, and I think including certain casinos and hotels.
Yeah, so I mean, it was you take a staircase underground. They've got like a little port where you get into. They have like loading docks,
Like a little subway?
like almost a little subway. It's all Teslas, so it's interesting because there's like 30 cars in the docking zone, but it's dead quiet.
And they're just funneling through, right?
And
no engines.
There's no
Crazy.
engines. It's dead quiet. There's music going. There's cool lights going. And there are just these tunnels that are just big enough. It's a circle, like just a tunnel that just barely fits these cars. And what's great about it is there's no traffic. It's just everybody's going one direction. There's no...
Yep. And the tunnel's
Yeah.
just big enough for the car to fit in. And they have all these cool, like, RGB lights.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
They have a certain playlist playing in each one of these Teslas, so it's kind of music that's appealing to
everyone.
To everyone, and it just now they currently have drivers
Yeah.
driving these Teslas, but I think eventually they want it to be autonomous.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, you would think just from the convention center from one side to the other, like, well, what's the big deal? You could walk. But if you've ever been to the Las Vegas Convention Center, it's
Yeah, that
it's a long walk.
it saves you like 20 minutes of transportation just to
Right.
get from one side to another.
Then
and
you
it
have to
goes
run all the
to it
people.
goes to one casino. It goes
Oh,
to
okay.
I think Resort World. So it goes from the south side of the convention center to the north side, and then from the north side to Resort World and back. But now they're going to be doing it all through Vegas. And the drill bit is just this one big drill bit that drills out the tunnel. And so they can just do it underground as long
Yeah.
as they're deep enough without having to do a lot above
Yeah,
ground.
I don't know. This might be talking more to my generation, but the movie The Incredibles, the animated movie, at the end they have that like villain who's got his big truck with a drill bit on it, and he
Yeah.
like digs down
Right.
and ground and underground.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
That is exactly what they did to make that tunnel. Like perfect. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It really was cool, and I think that is potentially future transportation in big cities. Like, you know, you always hear Los Angeles has huge problems, like 50 minutes to get from like one mile distance on
So
the
check
highway.
this out. So I was then also after Vegas had to go to a dealer meeting, and Kevin went with me. We were out in Arizona, and you see these Waymo cars all over the place. And Waymo is a company that is like a kind of like Uber or like a taxi service, but they're all autonomous vehicles.
All Jaguars with a
Oh,
bunch
wow.
of cameras and sensors. It was crazy though.
It's crazy. And my wife's like, I don't think I could trust that, but they're all over the place. So they obviously are working.
Right.
One of the Uber drivers we were talking to said the only problem that she's heard of with those is that when they come upon construction sites, they're not sure what to do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody knows what to do when you come up to a construction site.
Yeah, including these things. But they obviously work well, and people are using them. And I was running one morning, and I came to this intersection that I had to cross the street, and there was one of these Waymo cars with no driver in it. And I'm like, do I run in front of it, or
Yeah, it's,
do I
it's
not?
almost like a little creepy.
It
It's
is
like,
creepy.
Like possessed.
But you know what? I decided to trust the process and just and go for it.
Great, yeah.
And I'm still here to talk about it. But so when we talk about those things like the loop and we talk about the autonomous vehicles, I did a little bit of a dive into what the future looks like. So we're, instead of talking really quick about what happened in the last 3.5 years, I'll talk about some of the things that are already happening now, but are certainly still going to keep coming. And that is, I mean, if you think about this stuff, we could potentially be driving on roads that don't even have street signs anymore, because as these cars are made, the street signs are going to be displayed right in your dashboard.
They already are now.
They already are now on some cars
Yeah.
as an option, but once they make that mandatory, there will be no need for street signs, because
That's
they'll
right.
just be there in the car. And they may even be like augmented reality, to where you're looking out the
shows
windshield
up,
and
yeah.
it just shows up as a hologram in your windshield as if it were actually there. And that's like very realistic and very possible to have happen
Right.
even in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I was thinking about those autonomous vehicles, though, in Arizona, and like why we don't see them in Rochester. And aside from the small market that we're in,
Potholes.
potholes, snow, sleet,
Yeah.
all the nasty weather that we have, the thing is with all of these autonomous vehicles, the way they work is they have to be able to read the lines on the
Yeah.
road. So they have to be able to see
It's huge.
they have to see the road, the lines on the road, because that's what they follow. So I think as infrastructure grows and they build new streets, they're going to build these these streets are going to be like smart roads.
Right.
They're going to have Wi-Fi capability in the roads. They're going to have some other type of better marker systems on the, instead of just painted lines, for these things to be able to read it better. I mean, we already see in the last 3.5 years, right? You don't go through it. You rarely go through a toll booth anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think they have.
They've knocked them all down in New
There's
York.
the-
and in Massachusetts and everything. Yeah.
They still charge you, but
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, they do.
They take pictures of your plates now.
yeah. Which, by the way, like now it's getting really big around here, where they're taking pictures of you. If you are going too fast through a construction zone, you get a $50 ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just happened to my friend. He got a thing in the mail saying that he just got a speeding ticket in
Yeah.
the mail.
Yep.
He's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know when I was doing this, where I was doing this.
I've already
I have
gotten
no
two.
idea. Oh,
Yeah, they have cars at construction sites, and all they do is just take pictures of speeding cars.
I think there's a camera on the Freddie Sue Bridge right here in Rochester that gets you, because they have a lot of speeding going right through
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah.
it's a trap.
Yeah, so some things are not always great for us, but I mean, I guess they're great for our safety. So like the holograms, the smart highways, the heads-up displays. I mean, they're even trying to come up with these clever, because one of the things that people talk about when you talk about like EVs and plug-in hybrids, when all these people have these cars and they're plugging them in at night, is our like grid just going to melt down because of it? So they're really working on solar energy and all of these ways for there to be energy in the house that doesn't tax the grid. So they're like working
Yeah.
really hard on some of this stuff. But
So yeah, I mean, we kind of came up with a top 5 list of some of the new things to keep in mind with the change in technology and everything. And I figure if you want to start it off with number 5, Dad, we can kind of go through it. And
yeah,
I've got some info on some of these things.
All right,
So
you go ahead, take the lead on that.
all right. Well, so number 5, which is the one that you were talking about, the new market entrance and some of
Yeah.
the things we can expect with that. I know one of the things that we've looked into a lot is the AI capability and a lot of different ways that's impacting everything. I mean, not just automotive, but we're going to talk automotive with AI, but that's a huge thing that a lot
Right.
of people are.
I think about
Seeing-
advertising,
Yeah.
like advertising in the automotive industry. AI is a big thing.
Right. I mean, you see it now when you just search anything on your phone, like Facebook. You will start seeing car ads for the car you've been
Right.
searching for. Even your phone will pick up what you're talking about, and it's just like, oh, I'm now seeing an ad for this.
Yeah.
I was just talking about it the other day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this. Maybe this is considered AI. Maybe it's not. But my phone, when I go to my car and I start my car, my phone senses that transmission between the key and the car, and it'll pop up on my phone like instantaneously and it'll say, directions to go home.
Yeah, you are
But
10
it
minutes
also-
from home.
Yeah, but not only does it do that, it also knows like what you usually do. So after the end of the day at work, I start my car and it tells me how long it'll take me to get to the gym.
Right.
And then when I'm at the gym, it'll tell me how long it'll take to get home. It knows my typical
It recognizes
routine.
your patterns. And Wednesday
Well, if you want
nights-
presents for Christmas, you just ask your phone if you've been naughty or nice, so you know what Santa's.
That's right.
Yeah, that has to be AI. I mean, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
all
like,
tracking.
It's data gathering to make the experience.
But like for car
Better, I
dealers,
guess.
I think car dealers have to be very careful with things like ChatGPT and stuff like that, because I think the way I look at ChatGPT, I think it has a lot of great uses, but you have to be smarter about the uses than when you first started using ChatGPT. So like when it first came out, I was all on it. 3.5 came out, I was plugging things in, and it was,
Yeah.
I'd write something and I'd have it write it for me like I'm a professor or a lawyer or a doctor, and it made me sound really smart. And for about a few weeks, I could fool a few people until they all figured it out too. And now you
Right.
can kind of spot when something's written
Right, yeah.
by ChatGPT. So you kind of have to be careful, because I see like a lot of car advertisements that are clearly just like they put in some quick data on the car and let ChatGPT write about this will be a great car for your summertime fun. Come, I'm like, that's kind of generic and I don't like it. I like to be more specific. So I stay away from ChatGPT when it comes to writing copy.
It gives you good ideas on which way to go if you want to go
It
more
does.
personal or more business.
Well,
Right.
I like how Google, like if you type something in Google search, it kind of gives you an AI summary.
Yeah,
of things.
and it's exciting to see how Apple Intelligence works out and how that's going to help out.
The one thing I did notice, just going back to just sort of transportation stuff, there was this time where they were talking about like drones flying to your house and dropping the package. That hasn't materialized yet.
No.
No, they have little autonomous cars that can deliver your pizza in Chick-fil-A though.
Even here?
I don't think here, but I saw one in Arizona. And I thought about stopping over and just seeing what they had inside.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of leads us into our fourth topic is the infrastructure. I mean, I think that's I think part of what's holding us back from a lot of these new changes is that it's almost like the technology is ahead of the infrastructure.
Oh, it definitely
And
is.
And
Yep.
that's probably how it always has been and always will be.
Yep.
The infrastructure of our country and world just lags behind the technology that comes out.
Well, I mean, case in point, right? You go back to that Tesla loop. I mean, that thing is not autonomous. It's Tesla's.
Right.
And they can operate underground because they don't create any emission gases. So that's great.
Right.
But it still has drivers driving them. And I think the idea is to not have even humans driving them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like a huge point that you brought up a few minutes ago. I mean, the autonomous driving is very dependent on the lines of the road. And I mean, if you live in Rochester,
Bad
New
weather.
York, and there's a snowy day, you don't see the lines.
Does that autonomous vehicle know how to pump its brakes when
Right.
it's on ice or
Yeah.
whatever? Maybe. And maybe
Right.
it probably will at some point. But right now, we just have to trust that it can do what it can do on dry roads when it's sunny out.
Yeah. Or you go down residential roads that don't even have lines.
Yeah, right. So we got to see how that plays out. But, like Amazon, all of those Amazon trucks, most of them are
EVs
Rivians.
now, yeah.
They're Rivians.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Rivian I think yesterday they announced that the U.S. government
They
is
got a
putting
huge
like
$6.6
$6.6 billion
Yeah.
into Rivian.
Holy cow.
And Amazon has even bought another, I think there's this company called Zoox, Zoox. Would that be Zoox?
I've heard. The name sounds familiar, but I'm not.
And I think that's
familiar
going to
with
be another company like that Waymo, where it's going to be like a taxi service,
Right.
an autonomous taxi
Yeah.
service. So, these big companies are getting into this stuff.
it.
I just
Yeah.
think it's
I think probably the biggest thing you can notice now, I mean, just from a change from today to 4 years ago, is there are so many EV chargers at like shopping centers,
Oh, yeah.
grocery stores.
Even on the thruway, every new rest stop, they're
They're-
building EV chargers there.
there definitely is a lot more of that than there was. I think that's been the biggest shift in infrastructure so far.
Right.
What is going to happen next?
I'll tell you
I
what,
don't know.
one of the things that just is happening now, like in the last 4 years, we see it now. It's pretty almost standard on Audis, but lane departure and adaptive cruise control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adaptive cruise control, I didn't like it at first.
I still don't like it.
I'm gonna stop you because that is like a perfect segue into the third.
Yeah.
Third topic is vehicle safety, the
Right.
safety
Oh,
systems.
yeah.
So
By the way, cars in the future may not even have like side mirrors. Like the autonomous vehicles won't need mirrors.
They have cameras.
They'll be smaller. Yeah. I don't know how long it will be before people are buying autonomous vehicles that they just have drive them places. I like driving.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the market will ever be there. It might be in stuff like delivery and ride sharing and that kind of thing, but it probably won't go beyond that.
yeah,
That's tough. You get a lot of difference with people. They, like you said, you love driving. I like driving. It's just relaxing and peaceful to, just go out for a drive. And then if you're autonomous, it's like, okay, well, it's
but
like I'm just
they're
chilling.
talking about having some of these autonomous vehicles have AI like conversations with you when you're in the cars.
Like a little chauffeur.
So I'm in the back of my autonomous vehicle getting suicide prevention counseling from my AI car because I'm so bored because I'm sitting in the back of my car.
The only good thing about having a chauffeur like that, an AI chauffeur, is that he probably will have his seatbelt all set up before we leave.
Oh, all right. That's a dig against me.
So here's my dig on my dad for the day. We leave to come to the studio, and this is actually a good point for vehicle safety. This is something that's extremely annoying, and I'm sure everybody can
Don't do
attest
what
to it.
Hunter's dad does.
So we leave to come to the studio. Seatbelt's not on yet.
Answers the phone.
The Mercedes starts dinging. Ding, ding, ding. Then it starts dinging faster. Ding, ding, ding. And then it starts dinging even faster. There's like 3 different speeds that it has, and it's to the point to where it's like, put the seatbelt on.
Yeah. Well, the seatbelt, in my defense, the seatbelt was stuck. I was on the phone. I couldn't get it on speakerphone, so I'm trying to cradle the phone with my shoulder, and it wasn't working out.
The perfect example of how to drive safely.
Yeah.
But we have these very intelligent cars now that remind us very nicely
yes
to put your seatbelt.
Put your seatbelt.
When we were in Arizona, that was the first time I ever rode Uber, and within 30 seconds of being in the car, they're like, "Please put your seatbelt on," and I'm like, "I already have it on." And it's just one of their safety features.
I get it. Like, I get that the seatbelt dinging is supposed to be annoying, so it makes you put your seatbelt on. But it is annoying. The dinging. Right. That is like one of the worst. It's the only thing that's more annoying than that is the morning alarm going off.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that, or when you're the driver and your passenger doesn't have the seatbelt on, you're like, come on, let's go. My wife does it all the time.
Well, I remember when the seatbelt dinging thing started, cars didn't have them, and then they did, and people hated it. Just like people don't embrace a lot of the technologies. Like, for example, start stop. I want to touch on that for a second. So that's a thing that is now, I think it's in every car as of 2022, 23, the start stop feature, the Eco Start.
I believe so.
And people get in their car and they're like, they just want to shut that thing off. And they're like, I hate that my car stops at a traffic light. But I need to explain to people something about that. I think most people my age, I won't, 30 or under. Okay. Most people my age know they were taught that, starting your car and shutting it off used more gasoline and was more taxing on the starter than if you let your car run. So if you were idling for a while. That must not be true because they wouldn't have come out with this system. We have not seen a starter replacement due to a stop start.
Yeah, that's true. Since that has come out, I don't think we've ever had a starter go bad because it's like overused.
They're super robust. I mean, we used to have to go outside and bang them with a hammer to get them to start. You don't do any of that anymore. Starters don't fail.
Not often.
Before your time, Hunter.
Yeah.
Right. And the fuel efficiency, they show the fuel efficiency goes up if you're using that.
Yeah. I mean, I also think too, as that technology has gotten better, it's not as when it first came out, there was a little bit of a lag from like a red light, like a full on stop, and then you have to go. But I think it's gotten a lot more responsive.
I used to sell cars and almost always, like, one of the first things I said is, here's where you can turn it off. Eco Start off. Now I'm taking a different stance. I'm trying to get people to embrace the idea of it because I think they will have better fuel efficiency. Obviously they've done studies that it'll be better for the environment, and I think that the technology just keeps getting better. So I think at some point we just kind of, just like the seatbelt dinging thing, you get used to it and you finally put your seatbelt on. But we used to have people come in and have us pull the seatbelt ding relay out of their car. So
yeah, we still have a lot of people who will take the seatbelt and wrap it around the back of the seat and click it in.
For legal reasons, I will say we've never pulled one of those relays, but we've been asked.
So I think that probably puts us into our second topic, which is electric cars and plug-in hybrids.
Which I think we're going to have to leave people hanging on that because we have hit about our time for this podcast. So I think this is going to be a two-parter. So we're going to make our second podcast, finishing up this conversation, come back with some meat on things that have happened in the last 3.5 years. And boy, we got rolling on the things that we did talk about. A lot of cool stuff happening. I mean, there's the robots that I see that Tesla's working on and some other companies working on these personal robots. I mean, I can't even imagine when season 3 of Grease and Glamour comes out. Are we going to have our robot here with us as our fourth?
We'll just send our robot in.
He can just do the podcast.
We'll just let him do it.
Yeah, we'll upload our voices and just let him talk to himself.
His name will be Greasy.
Greasy.
So we're gonna follow up on this on the second podcast, and then the third podcast is going to wind up being the podcast with Rick Avery from California, stunt driver extraordinaire. Can't wait to talk to him. Got to do a lot of research, and I'm gonna have to watch a lot of cool movies between now and that interview. So try and see if I can point out what scenes he's in. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is going to be great. I'm super excited. We're so thankful for Scott and Roxbox Studios, and this is just a great forum for us and a great place for us to relaunch this podcast. So until next time, I'm Mark Fierbacher.
I'm Hunter Fierbacher.
I'm Kevin Ryan.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.